And we're live. All right, you are listening to an episode of Transparency and Merit. My name is Joe, and I'm here with Brian. And tonight we are talking about Adderall, good or bad.
Yes, just simple. Good or bad is Adderall. Good or bad. Joe, I put a video in your in your Skype. So I think that we should check that out before first, and then we could comment on that.
All right, I think we could do that.
Salts that was developed for treatment of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, aka ADHD. Since 2007, prescriptions have doubled in the U.S., and even those who don't have a prescription are using. An estimated 30% of university students use Adderall at some point as a study enhancer. But what happens to your brain on Adderall? Adderall is a combination of amphetamine salts, and therefore is, a close relative of methamphetamine, commonly known as meth. When Adderall is ingested, it takes effect on the brain within an hour of use. Adderall affects neuroreceptors in the central nervous system, increasing the effect of serotonin and dopamine. In patients with ADHD, genetic studies have indicated that these individuals may have dysfunctional dopamine release. Because of the lack of dopamine, it is theorized that the brain is constantly seeking out stimulants, resulting in the distractibility commonly seen in ADHD patients. The dopamine and serotonin released by Adderall overcomes this deficit in ADHD patients, causing increased focus and making you feel less distracted. Adderall also causes the release of norepinephrine, which activates the sympathetic nervous system, initiating your fight or flight response. This results in your body moving blood and energy towards the major organs and away from your limbs and digestion, which essentially increases alertness. But in non-ADHD users, can it help you get better grades? To investigate this, researchers had 32 people without ADHD perform 4 cognitive tests. In one instance, they were given 10 milligrams of Adderall and was told it was Adderall. In the second, they were given a placebo, but was told it was Adderall. In the third round, they were given 10 milligrams of Adderall, but was told it was a placebo. And finally, they were given a placebo and were indeed told it was a placebo. The 2 groups that did the best were those who thought they had taken Adderall, regardless of whether they had or not. In fact, the group that did the worst were those who took Adderall but was told it was placebo. This is because, although some studies have found that Adderall can increase repetitive learning tasks, it does not make a difference when it comes to most cognitive tasks or complex learning techniques like those needed for an exam. Any increase in studying skills may be from the fact that the drug gives you energy and can help keep you awake for a night of studying because, as we said earlier, it is similar in chemical structure to meth. The benefits of Adderall in academic circles is still up for debate, but the long-term detrimental effects of Adderall abuse are clear. Consistent release of serotonin and dopamine causes the brain to stop producing them naturally over time. Therefore, you need to keep taking more and more Adderall to get the same effect, making it highly addictive. Long-term users of Adderall developed an inability to feel pleasure without a chemical stimulant, and these effects can linger even after you stop taking Adderall. Adderall is a growing problem, so much so that millennials have been referred to as Generation Adderall. The abuse of Adderall in our culture is following a similar pattern to the current opioid crisis, which means, as a society, we need to put measures in place to protect people.
Thanks to Sal, our editor, for narrating this video, and wow, turns out Adderall is pretty intense.
But if you do need help with your exams or school, we have some scientific study tips and other advice over in a bunch of videos we've made. We'll put some there and in the description below.
Thanks so much. Make sure you're subscribed for a new video next Thursday. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Whoa. All right. So there you go. You got a, look like a pretty fairly balanced video. I always seem to think that, TED Talks is giving kind of a hat nod to something like Adderall. I think the TED Talks demographic it includes a large percentage of people who would consider nootropics and smart drugs, I'm using quote marks, as positives to society. And I'm not sure if I'm against or for that, but I definitely see where TED Talks is going with that. But the videos, by the way, we have a caller. Let me see. Can I call you right back? I'll call you into I'll call you.
Enough, yeah.
All right. Hey there, you are on Transparency and Merit. Who am I speaking with? Hello, sir or madame? Are you there? Still not hearing you, caller. Are you there?
You are in desperate need of an overdose of any drug that makes you shut the fuck up.
Have you ever taken Adderall?
Yeah, I think he has. I think he's overdosed.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking
yes.
that the Viagra maybe has the similar effect on you as maybe the Adderall.
Do you think that if 3M had taken Adderall when I called him incessantly 100 times, making his sounds beep beep beep? Oh, by the way, I have discovered how to turn the volume down on Skype without turning your whole volume down, just the ringing. But I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Okay.
I'm just going to let you know that it can be done.
That's wonderful. Do you have any thoughts on Adderall? Any experiences?
And are you apologetic for the selfish behavior that you portrayed towards me, the things that you've done to me?
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Look at that. He rolls out the thing and the hook is taken immediately. No!
Then I have to hang up on you, sir. I'm sorry. We do need an apology for that. Until we have the apology, you'll not be welcome back on the show. It was pretty vile.
It was really wrong.
Yes. But thank you for calling nonetheless. And so now we have. So what are your thoughts? Why is Adderall on the brain? What is going on here? Have you been?
Well, Joe, I've always been a horrible procrastinator, and there's a part of me that thinks about obtaining Adderall to overcome my procrastination. And I should have, maybe we should have titled the show Adderall for overcoming procrastination. And I've seen it. I remember I saw one video about Adderall where it did get somebody who was a habitual procrastinator, back on track. So there are things that probably work, and there are other things that probably don't. And
well, here's the deal. I know too many times I've heard the story where somebody starts they're prescribed Adderall, which, by the way, is only a 1 molecule difference between Adderall and crystal meth. Fact. You can look that up, and so it's very similar to a hard street drug. It's very easy to see what's happened here. Meth is basically was an epidemic 10 years ago in America, and the big pharma capitalized on that, and that's why the surge in I think I heard today something like 50 million people are prescribed Adderall. 50 million. It's a large number of people, and what I've heard many times is people get they get Adderall. This is kind of their wake up call to Adderall. They get prescribed it, they start using it, and then maybe they go on a vacation or they run out of it. They go somewhere and they suddenly can't take their medication. And I've heard this many times as a wake up call. They didn't realize just how much of a grip over their physiology it's got. So it's pretty damaging drug in the long term. But I think what you're saying is maybe try to get somebody back on track. It takes a lot of willpower, it takes a lot of education, but I think it can be done. I just think that overall the long-term physical and psychological damage it does can be really, really difficult. Have you heard differently? Hello? Are you there? Are you muted?
On mute.
You were muted.
Yeah, I was muted. And you actually did hang up on Howard.
Yeah, I took him out. Yes, yeah. No, I took him out. I mean,
That's good.
you asked for the apology, you didn't give it, so what's the point?
Yes.
I mean, if you want him back, you can get him back.
Yeah. I think certain. Look, I don't mind what he says. I mind the way he goes about coming on our show. Now, I almost wanted to do 10 ways drugs have been utilized in warfare throughout history. This is about 13 minutes long, so I don't want to play the whole thing. But I wonder how much Adderall, because I know they gave methamphetamines to people in the military. The Nazis did it, and the pilots during World War II did it.
Oh yeah,
and
this isn't a new drug, right? It's one form or another of Adderall, which was probably just a pep pill back then, but it's been around over 100 years.
And I wonder because I think it was in the mid to late, during the 1960s. The military started to lower its requirements. It used to be you had to have, your IQ had to be at least 80, and they made it like 74 or 75 IQ. And one of the things they gave people were pep pills, and maybe that performance, because I don't know how long, because it was, Adderall, at first it was called Ritalin, and then now it's called Adderall. I don't know how long Ritalin has been around, by the way, and this kind of drug, like when did they start giving it to school-age children?
Well, and Ritalin was kind of a strange class because of the effects it would have, and I think maybe it was considered maybe more of a neurostimulant or like an antipsychotic even. But yeah, that's at some points. But I'm not sure exactly what it's classified. But I remember in the late 80s, a friend of mine was prescribed it, and it was, I remember, for some reason I had thought then maybe it was kind of a new thing, but I might be wrong. Maybe it's been around.
I'm sure it was around in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the history.
But I don't know if it was around in the 60s or the 50s. And I'm looking up. It's kind of hard to get information on this stuff, though.
That's another thing too. 1955. Methylphenidate was made in 1944 and approved for medical use in the 50s, mid 1955, and then as of 2013, 2.5 billion doses of Adderall were taken worldwide. The 80s and the 90s, though, was when there was a huge spike. That's, I think there was more episodes or diagnosis of ADHD, which I think it was kind of the, would really children and adults with attention deficit disorder became a thing, and around the late 80s and then into the 90s, it was probably the peak of Ritalin. Sorry.
Yeah, the most common side effect is dry mouth and loss of appetite.
Yeah. Are you talking about Adderall or Ritalin?
Well, this is talking about method, but this was something that they were using.
That's Ritalin.
And I can't pronounce
Ritalin.
it, but it was, so it was first made in 1944, and like you said, was approved in 1955.
Methylphenidate is the word you're thinking of. But yeah, that's when it was first prescribed. But like I said, 1980s, I remember a friend of mine got prescribed it, and the reason I remember it is like, what the hell does it do? And I was so curious, I took one, and I don't remember it doing anything, so I never took another one.
So it was, it was used to treat narcolepsy, and then methamphetamine use was used to treat attention deficit disorder. The addition of behavior modification can be additional benefits on treatment, and the dosage may be varied, added to the. So the short-term and cost effects to the methamphetamine use. So, I mean, and I wonder how. How studied, and then we don't have time to go into a lot of these studies now, but I'm just taking a look at children with ADHD who use the stimulant medication generally have better relations with peers and family members, perform better in school, and are less distracted and impulsive, and have longer attention spans. People with ADHD have an increased risk of substance use disorder without treatment, and stimulant medications reduce this risk. I'm wondering where these studies are, and like how open these studies are to the public.
Well, that's the problem here. Without full transparency on these things, you can be certain that it's not a good thing. Otherwise, remember, when you have something and you have the truth, there's really no reason to have it muddled up, buried on web searches or any of that. There should be one, trusted fact about Adderall, and what I find is just a bunch of disjointed information sites and no official, just kind of landmark study or anything like that. I just see that, and then a bunch of podcasts and or articles written by people. And from my view, what I've found is the stories where they told a harrowing situation or experience with Adderall. I found those stories to be far more compelling than the few stories I found where it was all in support of, and something that was that really shined Adderall in a very positive way. Just the information out there is overwhelmingly and negative as far as just the turnabouts, because what I find is there might be a short burst of production, but what's followed then is a virtual nightmare, and I see that a lot, and it's happened a lot in my personal life too. And I don't know if you've ever known any, but do you have any personal stories of friends that got into meth?
No, although actually, funny you should mention that. I made a mistake of loaning a homeless person money, and I could just tell that he was a meth addict. And then he walked up to my office door and was begging for food. And, yeah, it's terrible. And I don't know. I don't know what to kind of do about this situation. Part of me wants to do that guy physical harm because he's such a buffoon, a meth addict buffoon, and it's almost like his brain is almost fried.
Yeah, and what happens is that what your brain normally produces is taken over by Adderall or meth or methamphetamine, and starts taking over the job of releasing the different compounds that will get you aroused or woken up. And what happens is when you stop using it, your brain doesn't know how to adjust to this new life of not having things done for it. From what I'm told, it takes people up to a year to get their brain to properly function right after ending using something like Adderall. So I would urge anyone that gets prescribed it or is curious about it to
What is the dark net?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna I have, let me see here. Let me go here. Cracked. I'm looking for a video that talks about meth addiction, and I'm gonna, let me give this to you, Joe. I wanna give this video to you, and it says, and tell me if this right here has any truth to it. This is a video on meth addiction, and it's about 4 minutes long.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm Brian.
So-
Debbie Daly, meth user or no?
I would say she is a promise breaker, but that is,
Fact.
and she probably feels ashamed. Unlike one angry who doesn't feel ashamed at all.
Truth. All right, send me that
All right.
link. Let's go. Let's get this
I
thing
just
going.
did. It's in your chat box.
I don't
dude.
see
Your
it.
chat box.
What
I
chat
just
box?
put it in there. It's in the chat. It's in the chat room.
We're in 10 different chats. What chat room?
On your Skype chat.
Really?
It's right next to my name. You'll see it. Like, open it up. There it is. 8Q. Like, dude. Okay, dude. You just open it up. I saw you. Hold on. Let me get out of here so I can just.
This
okay.
one. This.
That one right there.
I've already played this video, you dipshit.
No, you haven't. You're completely wrong. You're on crack.
You're
I
cracked.
used to be normal, and then I tried meth once. Just once. And it's like the individual's lost art. Worse, your skin turns into a rotting tortilla, and your teeth fall out, and no one will ever love you again. It just, leaks everywhere.
Yeah, not quite.
My name's Jessica, and this is Oscar. We were both meth addicts.
The real life kind.
And we'd like to explain some of the things everyone gets wrong about methamphetamine use. So let's take a trip back in time and mention that at the height of our addictions, we looked pretty much the same.
Actually, I was a bit fatter. Cool.
We also both held down full-time jobs, which isn't unusual. Most meth addicts do. Odds are, if you work with 100 people, you know 3 meth addicts. It's easy to find online forums populated by working mothers who use the drug to give themselves energy to get through the day. See, kids eliminate the opportunity for sleep, and meth eliminates the need for sleep. Kids and meth, a match made in heaven.
There's gotta be a better way to put that. Needless to say, meth is not a great long-term strategy, but long-term strategy isn't always on an overworked parent's mind. I worked in mental health. people would always tell me that I couldn't understand addiction because I wasn't the type of person who could ever get addicted to something, which actually points to the problem. Remember those excessive anti-drug ads we mentioned? They'll send a message that meth users are disgusting freaks.
Meth is worse than being in a car accident.
Doing meth will put you in an abusive relationship.
Even drug users buy into it. The first time I saw my boyfriend using meth, I was furious because even though I was using heroin at the time, he disgusted me. I know what you're thinking though, and don't worry. We stay together.
The problem is that in addition to making the drug scary, those ads make the users scary. And that stigma discourages them from getting proper treatment. After I shot meth into my penis and needed to go to the hospital because of the first part of that sentence, I felt too ashamed to admit what drug I had shot into my wang and said, "It was cocaine!" Which we all know is the dick drug of classy gentlemen.
A lot of people use meth because it gives them confidence and makes socializing easier. So meth users tend to be people who are insecure about how others see them. So telling a meth user that they look like Freddy Krueger with a skin rash doesn't exactly instill the confidence and self-love needed to shake an addiction. One of the weirder side effects of meth is that it gives antipsychotic meds street value, because after a long night of being spun, we will take these to force ourselves to come down and go to sleep. These drugs can give you diabetes or heart problems or other things too, probably. Medicine's weird, but we need them to sleep. And not even because we're too busy doing stuff. A lot of meth energy is, paradoxically, being totally wired and super lazy.
While I originally used crystal to treat my social anxiety, my addiction slowly evolved into me getting spun with my buddies and then sitting in my bedroom all weekend watching porn. I barely went out or did anything. Eventually, I did happen to hook up with this guy, but I was so out of shape that a few minutes in, I was drenched in sweat and had to stop. I have a heart condition. But for the most part, meth is a very social drug. Getting clean meant giving up relationships with a lot of the users who I also consider to be my friends. It's not always easy to draw a line in your life between good people and toxic junkies. It's actually possible to really love someone who's killing you.
Which brings us to, this part.
Oscar and Jessica aren't our real names, but we're based on real people. The real Oscar continues to struggle with his addiction to this day. He was clean when we met him, but then just happened to relapse while we were writing the script.
The real Jessica had only been clean for a few months when she got in touch with Prac to share her story. Then she stopped answering her phone and emails. We don't know what happened to her.
Oscar's other friends, my sober friends, were stoked when he stopped using and started spending time with them again. He was able to become his old self again. Recovery is always possible.
We know Jessica's friends would have felt the same way, and everyone here just hopes she's all right.
Cracked. All right. So are you still here? Hello? Ooga booga.
I had myself on mute.
You were
was
probably,
that garbage or was that...
Yeah, it was kind of a cracked story. It's no different. Yeah, I mean, it's not off the mark. I've had... gosh. I don't even know how many, but I can think of at least two right off the top of my mind. Two good friends of mine that suddenly got into meth. I'll never forget. Different times, different periods of my life. And they got into meth, and they were absolutely gone from my life. Not because I wanted them to be out of my life. It was just the drug consumed them so much, so quickly, that that was it. They were hanging out with their meth buddies, and it took years, and finally those people kind of wandered back into my life, and well, at least in one of those cases. The other case, I never saw the dude again. But you know, it's meth's an interesting drug, that's for sure. But and Adderall, I've heard too many bad stories about how the addiction grabs them, and all the side effects that come with it. Oftentimes, getting off of it leads to serious binge eating.
Mm-hmm.
So all the
they
weight,
gain a lot of weight.
Yeah, all the weight that was lost suddenly is back and then some.
So, because I actually had a friend. He's an ex-friend, and at the time he was an ex-drug dealer, an ex-crack dealer, as a matter of fact. And he said, a lot of the people he dealt crack to were like normal, everyday people. He said, there were a few that were like, spun out and would do, steal and rob to do their habit. But he said, for the most part, a lot of these people, he said, a drug dealer can't make, money if everyone's, like everyone that they're dealing is just a cuckoo bird. So, I said a lot of them were just, average working people that were like, that would smoke crack. He said he had like, business people, like business people, heads of companies and stuff who were crack addicts.
Beppe likes the black mollies. I'm sure everybody in our chat room has a story about it.
Yeah.
Like they said in the video, if you're walking down the hallway, 4 out of the 10 people you run into are going to be meth addicts.
We said, 100 out of the 3 people will be meth addicts, and like I said, there's probably
100 out of the 3?
They're probably drug addicts. Yeah, there are probably drug addicts out there. There are probably some drug addicts listening to this show right now, probably strung out on some form of illegal substance. Just as we speak. They are snorting, shooting, drinking some concoction. You never know. You never know who, because of course, if they're doing something illegal, they're going to lie about it. So, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, Joe, I think to a degree unless you want to continue, that about ends it for our show.
That's all you had on the Adderall story? I can't believe it.
Well, what's that?
I thought you had some, just something of personal value to add to the meth story.
I thought I gave some of the personal value. I think the thing is, it's really difficult to find these studies and how long it's been around, and there just needs to be more studies on it. The studies are rather inconclusive on how good or how bad it is. Now, I have a teacher, one of the persons that works with me also works at a school, and he says that it's effective, but who knows? Anyway, I think that's, what we came to the conclusion is it's inconclusive. And by the way, and this is playing on Spreaker, but it also goes to YouTube. And a recommendation, if you like our show, like and subscribe to our channel if you like it. Maybe hit the bell icon and share it as well. You may not like it. Who knows? Anyways, is there anything else to add, Joe?
No, that's it for Transparency and Merit for tonight. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and stay away from one angry Jew.
Yeah.
I guess that's all we got.
That's all we got.
Let's shut this thing down. If you're in the chat room, thank you so much for being here. It's people that we've known for a long, long time. Jeez.